In this video, we will dive into the movie Sonic the Hedgehog 3. We will discuss the movie story, summarize the plot, and explore the cast and characters. Additionally, we will cover the movie production details and box office performance. Finally, we will provide their reviews and personal reactions. Let's begin with the movie story. The film opens on Prison Island in Japan. Gun security guards are keeping an eye on Shadow the Hedgehog, voiced by Keanu Reeves, who has been kept in status for 50 years. Shadow experiences flashback of a girl named Maria. Suddenly, someone hacked into the security system, causing Shadow to reawaken. More gun agents storm the place right before Shadow bursts through his containment pod. He uses teleportation power to attack the agents, knocking all of them out before making his escape. In Green Hills, Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles engage in a race to see who is the farthest out of all of them. Sonic ends up being tricked by holograms and ends up going back to find that Tails, Knuckles, plus Tom and Maddie and Ozzy the dog have prepared a celebration for Sonic's anniversary for his arrival on Earth. Later, Sonic and Tom come upon Sonic's old cave that he lived in before meeting the Wachowskis. They see a drawing that Sonic made of Long Claw, and he admits that he still misses her. Tom tells Sonic that despite everything he has been through, he has never changed who he is. The festivities are integrated by gun agents led by Dr. Rockwell. She brings Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles with her to Japan for an urgent matter. They drop down into Tokyo, where Shadow has caused destruction after battling more gun agents. Team Sonic arrives to take him on, but he proves to be too fast and powerful. Sonic gives chase while Shadow rides a motorcycle and fires his gun at him. Shadow ends up fleeing from Sonic's view. The trio go to Chow Garden and meet Commander Walters. He explained to them that Shadow was discovered in a meteor that came to Earth. He possesses chaos energy and was deemed too dangerous. The lab where he was experimented on exploded, and the professor who tested him was arrested and incinerated. Moments later, egg drones arrive and attack, fatally injuring Walters, but no before he gives Team Sonic a key card to secret gun weapon. A mysterious biker bursts in and disables the drones before riding away. The trio flee before Rockwell and other agents arrive, and he assumes that they stole the cards. Team Sonic catches up to the biker, who turns out to be Agent Stone. He claims that he and Dr. Ivo Robotnik are not responsible for Shadow's escape. Stone brings the three into a giant mechanical crab and brings him to Ivo, who has fallen into a junk food depression since his last defeat. Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles reluctantly agrees to an alliance with Ivo and Stone after Sonic gives Eggman one of his quills. Shadow goes to the old gun facility. He reminisces about his time and Maria, whom he developed a friendship with. Shadow is then found by his creator just as Sonic and the other arrives. All of them expect Ivo are incapacitated, and Ivo comes face to face for the first time with his grandfather, Gerald. Ivo is related to have a member of his family alive. The Robotnik and Shadow tie up Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles, and Gerald explains that he needs a second keycard to activate the Eclipse Cannon, a super weapon hidden underneath gun headquarters that is powered by chaos energy and is capable of global destruction. The villains leave Team Sonic as they activate a black hole that sucks up the whole facility after Shadow takes the keycard they already had. The trio manage to grab a ring and open a portal to get them out of there. Ivo and Karen start to spend time together in a virtual simulation to catch up on lost time. This causes Stone to feel left out and neglected by the man he has always been loyal to. The three return to Tom and Maddie for help. They travel to London to gun headquarters since that is Gallant and Shadow's primary target for the Eclipse cannon. Tom and Maddie use suits to disguise themselves as Rachel and Randall to make their way inside. They insert a drive that allows Tails to hack into the system and disable an energy shield so Sonic can enter. When they find the room with the key card, they find that Ivo and Gerald have already made their way inside with their own super suits. Before they can get to the key card, Rockwell finds them and manipulates the gravity in the room before other agents storm the place. Nickel bursts in to save them, but he smashes the gravity keypad and causes everyone to either float or get stuck to the ground. Rockwell eventually gets the key card and gets away, but Tom disguises himself as Commander Walter to trick Rockwell into giving him the key card. Shadow sees Tom in disguise and punches who he thinks in Walter in retaliation. Tom is knocked out and Sonic runs to his side in a panic, which causes Shadow to remember his final moments with Maria. He gets away just as Maddie rushes to Tom's side. He is taken to the hospital and Sonic becomes enraged to the point of seeking revenge against Shadow. He tells Knuckle to tell him where the Master Emerald is so he can become Supersonic again, but Knuckle refuses since he was sworn to keep it guarded for being too powerful. Tails tries to talk them down, but Knuckle relents and tells Sonic that it is being kept by weight. Sonic goes to him and takes the emerald. The villains resist the Eclipse cannon from the river Themis and take it high into space. However, Ivo is horrified to learn that Geralt doesn't plan to dominate the Earth but to destroy it. Another flashback reveals that gun agent storms the facility to kill Shadow, but a stray bullet causes the explosion that killed Maria. This drove Geralt and Shadow to revenge against all of humanity. Supersonic then flies at high speeds, crashing through the facility and fighting Shadow. The two hedgehogs took it out after crashing into a field, but Shadow taunts Sonic about abandoning his friends and family for revenge. Sonic responds by uppercutting Shadow all the way to the moon. Before Sonic can deliver the fatal blow, he holds back and realizes that this is not who he is. He and Shadow expresses their pain over the ones they lost, Maria and Longclaw. But Sonic tells him that revenge will not fix things. They resolve to work together and save the world. Ivo turns on Geralt after he admits that he never viewed Ivo the same way he did with Maria. Geralt responds by trying to drop Ivo to his death, but he raises from a ring portal with Tails and Knuckle, and Ivo uses Sonic's supercharged kill to poke Geralt in the butt, sending him flying into the chaos energy field and immobilizing him. Ivo, Tails and Knuckle then try to redirect the Eclipse cannon trajectory while Sonic and Shadow, both powered by the Chaos Emeralds, hold the blast off. They succeed in diverting it away from the Earth but end up hitting the moon. Sonic starts to fall to Earth unconsciously, and when Tails tries to save him, he loses consciousness too, but Knuckles ends up saving them both. Sonic apologized to his friends for aborting them the way he did, but Tails and Knuckles forgave him. The Eclipse cannon core is about to overload. Ivo resolves to use his final moments with Shadow to get the cannon away from Earth. Ivo sends out one last team to Earth to reach Stone, who sees it from London. Ivo thanks him for remaining loyal and being his only friend. Shadow pushes the cannon away from Earth before it is obliterated. Stone bids Eggman farewell. The heroes return to Green Hill with Tom recovering from his injuries. Sonic, Tails and Knuckles then proceeds to race again to see which of them is truly the fattest. Sonic ends up running all the way to a park in New York. He is then confronted by Metal Sonic. The Hedgehog takes it down before it can strike him, but then a whole army of Metal Sonic shows up. They are awakened out by yet another Hedgehog, Amy Ross. Post-credit scene is Shadow is shown to have survived the explosion and picks up one of his inhibitor rings. Sonic the Hedgehog 3, released in 2024, has carried Ben Schwartz past two career-altering box office milestones. After premiering with a hefty $60 million to make first place at the box office the weekend before Christmas, Sonic the Hedgehog 3 has kept up the momentum on its way to becoming one of the biggest hits of 2024. The film has put together $216 million domestically and $203 million in international markets for a worldwide total of $419 million. This $216 million domestically and $203 million in foreign markets is enough to help lift actor Ben Schwartz, who plays the lead role of the Blue Speedstress, past the $1 billion mark for his career for both categories. Schwartz's domestic career box office total stands at $1.19 billion with an international total of $1.17 billion for a global cumulative haul sitting comfortably at $2.29 billion. Sonic 3 is also the highest grossing movie in his career. Ben Schwartz has the Sonic franchise to thank for the lion's share of his career box office rankings. The Sonic films occupy the top 3 spots on his career domestic box office earning, with Sonic 3 at $216 million, Sonic 2 at $190 million, and Sonic 1 at $146 million. His small role as B-man assistant in The Other Guys, the action comedy starring Will Ferrell and Mark Wahlberg, is also one of the highest grossing movies of his career with over $119 million from domestic markets. Schwartz's role as Benhammer in the Lego Movie 2 The Second Part 2019 and Mark in DC League of Super Pets have also helped his box office total reach new heights. The film grossed $105 million and $93 million respectively at the domestic box office. What other role does Ben Schwartz have coming up? Ben Schwartz will next reunite with his Sonic co-star James Marsden on Mike and Nick and Alice, the upcoming comedy that also stars Vince Vaughn and Isa Gonzalez. He is also attached to an upcoming comedy project with Seth Rogen and Adam McKay, but few details are shown at this time. Schwartz is also expected to reprise his role as the Blue Speedster in Sonic the Hedgehog 4, which is confirmed to be in actor development, but does not yet have an official release date. Aside from Sonic, Schwartz will always be known for his role as Gene Ralphio in the popular sitcom Parks and Recreation. Sonic the 3 is still playing in most theaters everywhere. Sonic 3 breaks box office record and Sonic 4 announcement. Sega Sammy holds Inc. announced that Sonic the Hedgehog 3 surpasses $425 million in global box office revenue, breaking the records of its predecessors. The film's success contributed to the franchise's total gross exceeding $1 billion worldwide. Paramount Pictures has scheduled the release of Sonic the Hedgehog 4 for March 19, 2027, indicating continued momentum for the series. The latest film debuted strongly in multiple international markets, highlighting its global appeal and reinforcing Sega's position in the film industry. Sega Sammy Holding Inc. is a prominent player in the entertainment industry, known for its video games, cellular machines, and amusement facilities. The company focusing on delivering engaging entertainment experience through its popular franchise, including the Sonic the Hedgehog series, which has seen significant success as a Hollywood film adaptation. Sonic 3 2024 officially becomes highest grossing movie in franchise after reaching huge global milestone. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 has officially become the highest grossing film in the beloved video game franchise. Its third installment sees Sonic, Tails and Knuckles teaming up once more to take on Shadow the Hedgehog, a powerful new adversary after Shadow proves too strong to defeat alone. Sonic is forced to form an uneasy alliance with Dr. Ivo Robotnik to spark Shadow's revenge against the planet. The Sonic the Hedgehog 3 cast features the return of Ben Schwartz, Idris Elba and Jim Carrey with the exciting addition of Keanu Reeves as the enigmatic Shadow. According to the numbers, Sonic 3 has crossed the $400 million mark, earning $419.9 worldwide and surpassing its predecessor's $405 million total box office haul. Released the weekend before Christmas to rave reviews and a strong audience reception, Sonic 3 successfully built upon its action-packed narrative and lovable characters established in the first two Sonic movies. What Sonic 3 box office success means. Sonic the Hedgehog 3's box office dream reflect a powerful combination of factors, including a well-timed release, a stellar cast, and the success of its predecessors, all of which have propelled it to the top of the Sonic franchise. The broader resurgence of video game adaptation driven by box office juggernauts like the Super Mario Bros. Movie, which set a domestic record for video game films with $574 million in 2023, helped fuel anticipation for the Billboard's latest adventure as the genre gains a newfound prominence in Hollywood. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 worldwide box office $419 million. Sonic the Hedgehog 2 released in 2023 $405 million box office. Sonic the Hedgehog 1 worldwide box office is $319 million. In 2024, movies as I'm Younger audience dominated the domestic box office with half of the top 10 grossing films rated PG, 4 of which rank in the top 5. This wave of family-friendly hits provided an ideal climate for Sonic 3 to thrive. Reviews for Sonic 3 have also noted how the films revitalized Sonic's journey as a leader by introducing a thrilling new villain and developing the emotional core of the story, making it a satisfying continuation for fans and newcomers alike. Our take on Sonic 3's record-breaking achievement. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 reaffirms video game adaptation as a legitimate force in Hollywood with its mix of thrilling action, heartfelt moments, and clever nostalgia. Jeff Fowler's third installment to the franchise expertly crafts a blockbuster follow-up that both delights fans and draws in new audience. Its record-breaking success moments Sonic's legacy as a beloved cultural icon, particularly among families with Sonic 4 already in development. Riding these waves of momentum, the Billboard's cinematic journey shows no sign of slowing down. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 continues momentum by passing new domestic box office milestone. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 has passed yet another domestic box office milestone. Released on December 20, the threequel has done well in the past 4 weeks. Sonic 3 has received strong reviews overall, even becoming the highest rated film in the franchise according to Rotten Tomatoes. The franchise film features a leading cast including Ben Schwartz, Idris Elba, Jim Carrey and Keanu Reeves. After the events of this film, Sonic the Hedgehog 4 is already confirmed to be in the works. Pre-box office mojo, Sonic the Hedgehog 3 has now crossed an important domestic box office milestone. The movie is now in the top 10 highest grossing 2024 release at the domestic box office, taking the number 9 slot. It passed Kung Fu Panda 4 and Godzilla X Kong: The New Empire in order to get this spot. The film still tails behind the number 8 spot Twisters by a fair margin, as Sonic 3 has crossed 400 million domestically compared to Twister's $267 million. What this means for Sonic the Hedgehog 3. This is not the only box office feat the Sonic the Hedgehog 3 has achieved recently. Last week, the film also became the highest grossing movie of the Sonic franchise in terms of domestic box office numbers. The next highest franchise is Sonic the Hedgehog 2, which now tails Sonic 3 by almost $14 million. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 has yet to beat out its predecessor at the worldwide box office. However, as the second film grossed $405 million worldwide, and the 2024 movie is only at $385 million worldwide. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 has also yet to break into the top 10 highest grossing 2024 release at the worldwide box office, but it is in the top 15 on a worldwide scale. Sonic 3 actually comes in right above Twisters, but falls below movies such as Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes and Bad Boys Ride or Die. To break into the global top 10, Sonic the Hedgehog 3 will still need to make over $19 million worldwide, which is a hefty but still possible sum depending on the extent of its international rollout. Our take on Sonic the Hedgehog 3's box office milestone. Sonic the Hedgehog 3's recent box office milestone proves that 2024 was a particularly strong year for kid and family-oriented films. Half of the top 10 films at the domestic box office are rated PG, with 4 of these even making it into the top 5. Kid-friendly films always have an edge at the box office, but the 2024 track record is especially impressive in this regard. Box office. Sonic 3 speeds to $60 million debut. Mufasa the Lion King gets trampled with $35 million. Paramount third Sonic Adventure has opened at number 1 with $60 million from 3,761 North American theaters. Monday's final number was below Sunday's estimate of $62 million. Blasted by positive reviews and strong audience scores, though the film still landed on the higher end of initial expectations of $55 million to $60 million and looks to remain a holiday hit throughout the new year. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 was tracking for a trilogy low start, but instead opened above the original 2020 Sonic the Hedgehog, $58 million in February, and just below the 2022 sequel, a series best $72 million in March. As we have seen this franchise audience grow, we saw a window in the marketplace in December where we thought we could stand out, says Paramount President of Domestic Distribution Chris Erickson. We have been able to accomplish that. Sonic is going to dominate throughout the holiday. Disney The Lion King prequel Mufasa trotted behind in second place with $35 million from 4,100 cinemas, falling way behind pre-release expectation of $50 million. It's a terrible start for a tentpole that cost about $200 million to produce and roughly $100 million to promote across the globe. Despite mixed reviews, the film has several potential saving graces, including a solid A grade on cinema score from audience and the reality that the summer release are not known to deliver robust debuts. But if word of mouth is favorable, the film can enjoy staying power into January and beyond. That was true of last year's Timothy Chalamet lead prequel Wonka, for example, which notched $39 million to start and tapped out with $218 million in North America and $634 million worldwide. Mufasa has a better chance of breaking out overseas, although the family-friendly films also missed projection at the international box office, earning $87 million for a global start of $132 million. Sonic the Hedgehog 3, which cost $122 million, doesn't open at the international box office until Christmas. Jeff Poller returned to direct the threequel with Ben Schwartz back to voice the title character, a speedy blue creature with a knack for busting baddies, and Jim Carrey reprising his role as Sonic for Dr. Robotnik, a mad scientist obsessed with achieving world domination. The story picks up with Sonic and pals Tails and Knuckles on a mission to stop a mysterious new adversary, Shadow the Hedgehog. The film landing on A grade on cinema score and an 86% average on Rotten Tomatoes. Sonic has commented itself as a promising new film franchise for Paramount, with the first two movies generating a combined $725 million at the global box office while driving more than $180 million in consumer spending from home entertainment rentals and digital purchases. Their property, based on the popular Saga video game series, also inspired a Paramount Plus spin-off series Knuckles, which debuted earlier this year. Meanwhile, a fourth movie is already in development for 2027. Over the last 5 years, Sonic has grown into a coveted five-quadrant movie. Its audience includes younger and older females, younger and old males, and families, says David Cross, who runs the movie consultant film franchise entertainment research. The series is going everything right. Mufasa could rebound over the holiday, or it may be latest indicating that audiences are tiring of Disney's live-action adaptations of animated classics. Retreat of Jungle Book, The Lion King, Beauty and the Beast, and Aladdin were huge commercial hits, while Mulan, Dumbo, and the title Mermaid either faltered or fell short of expectation in theaters. Disney has two more remakes set for 2025, Snow White in March and Lilo and Stitch in May, as well as live-action takes on Moana and Tangled in the works. Barry Jenkins, the Oscar-winning filmmaker of Moonlight and If Beale Street Could Talk, helmed Mufasa, which features music by Lin-Manuel Miranda and the voice cast of Aaron Peter and Calvin Harrison Jr. as Mufasa, and Scar Donald Glover, Seth Rogen, Bailey Eacher, Beyonce Knowles, Carter Metz, Melkson, and Blue Abby Carter. It served as a prequel to director Jon Favreau's 2019 photorealistic The Lion King remake, which also generated mixed reviews but delivered a stunning $119 million debut over the summer and eventually generated a mighty $1.66 billion at the global box office. Audience liked the movie and family animation has gone excellent, holding stunts this year, says Cross. The story is not finished as this is a prequel story and prequel starts slower. Movie theater owner hope that's the case because overall domestic ticket sales remain 4.3% behind 2023 and 23% behind 2019 according to ComScore. Christmas season is looking less festive than usual, with adult skewing offering like Saturday Bob Dylan biopic A Complete Unknown. The focus features Nosferatu remake and A24 erotic thriller Baby Girl as the newcomers on the calendar for December 25. Exhibitors usually rely on all audience for such a avatar, The Way of Water or Spider-Man No Way Home, to keep multiplexes packed through some of the busiest movie-going days of the year. This year, most of those four-quadrant films, including Universal Wicked, Disney Moana 2, and Paramount's Gladiator 2, were released around Thanksgiving. All three look to keep drawing audience through Christmas time. Wicked floated to third place with $13.5 million from 3,296 venue. The big-budget movie musical has generated $383 million domestically and $571 million globally after 5 weekends of release. It landed ever so slightly ahead of Moana 2, which added $13.1 million from 3,600 theater in its fourth weekend on the big screen. The Polynesian admission Adventure has grossed 359 million in North America and Mammoth $790 million worldwide to date. It poised to become Disney's third movie to cross $1 billion this year. Box office Sonic the Hedgehog 3 stays ahead of Mufasa crosses $100 million in North America. The face-off between furry mammals rakes and the holiday box office with Paramount Sonic the Hedgehog 3 continuing to lead domestic charts. The video game inspired sequel earned another $12.6 million on Friday to boost its North America tally to $112 million. After an underwhelming opening behind Sonic the Hedgehog 3 last weekend, Mufasa the Lion King sat ahead of Sonic 3 to lead charts over Christmas. It moved back to second on Friday, earning another $12 million. It will look to cross the $100 million domestic mark before the end of the weekend and is hoping to keep an momentum through the new year at a $200 million production budget. The Barry Jenkins director features needs lasting staying power domestically and internationally for Disney to end the year on a high note. Paramount's Sonic the Hedgehog 3 shows no sign of slowing down. The new adaptation of the enduring saga video game franchise has crossed $100 million in North America in its first 8 days of release. It's been a strong pace for the sequel, which cost $122 million to produce and already has a follow-up in the works. And now, after Sonic launch in most international territories on Christmas Day, the Hedgehog and Mufasa are competing for children and family audience all around the globe. Third goes to Focus feature Nosferatu. After opening on Christmas, the Robert X. helmed remake of F.W. Murnau's silent vampire classic added another $7 million on Friday and is projected to get to $39 million through the 5-day frame. It's turning out to be a landmark opening for Focus Features and all the better since Nosferatu was produced for $50 million, a steeper than usual figure for the banner. As a supplemental installment, the period horror film has grown strong reviews and turned itself into the gender events of the season. Searching Light Paramount also spent big on A Complete Unknown, which cost $60 million to $70 million to produce. The Timothy Chalamet lead Bob Dylan biopic added another $3.8 million on Friday and looks to cross $23 million through the 5-day frame. It's a substantial start for a period drama. Through A Complete Unknown needs to leverage award buzz and positive reviews for a successful run in theaters. Also opening the weekend, A24's Office Affair thriller Baby Girl starring Nicole Kidman earned $1.3 million on Friday, further down the top 10 Amazon MGM's Boxem. Crowd Plates The Fire Inside directed by Rachel Morrison added 65 on Friday. Both features debuted to strong reviews during the Fall Film Festival season. Rounding out the top 5, Universal Wicked swept up another $6.8 million on Friday, now armed with a sing-along screening in select locations. The adaptation of the Broadway musical crossed $400 million domestic a few days ago and stands at the third highest grossing North American release of the year. Meanwhile, Disney Moana and Toad sailed to another $6.3 million Friday after reaching $375 million domestically earlier this week. The $400 million milestone is just on the horizon. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 reviews. After the Paramount logo, the star replaced by gold rings flying toward the iconic mountain, and the Sega indent Sonic the Hedgehog 3 rather ironically skews to a large credit for Neil Mortis production company. Original film. It not very often a production banner throws an international shade on the film that follows, but there is very little That is novel in Sonic 3's subsequent 109 minutes. Director Jeff Fowler's inoffensive, all too familiar third adventure for the Blue Blood is probably the pick of the bunch, but this is still the kind of low hanging fruit. Endless quiping, bland, moralizing dance routines meted out by every box standard animated kids flick since the turn of the century. The big new element here is the introduction of vengeful villain Shadow the Hedgehog, voiced by Keanu Reeves, unsurprisingly channeling John Wick rather than Ted Logan. Teased in a sitting at the end of Sonic 2, Shadow is a black-hearted agent of chaos, thick nickel Corrick and Quills whose escapes in creation after 50 years to wreak havoc on protectors of Earth Gun, guardian units of National. Alongside Santis, Gerald Robotnik, Jim Carrey, soon Sonic and his late steals the Fox and Knuckle the Agenda are dispatched to manage the meme, only to discover they need to team up with Io Romantic, the grandson of Gerald, and the series' big bad dead after the second film to save the day. The word that comes to mind when describing the Sega saga is scattershot, from the comedy a fart cake here, a B. Arthur joke there to the needle drops, the traveling wild bros, the prodigy, the Beach Boys together at least to the action, a bike chase in Tokyo, shenanigans over London landmarks, everything has a let's hope this sticks quality. This absurd approach extends to the thematic material you can choose from, a listen to your heart, or trust your friends, or don't let pain change you, or always make the right choice. But none of them are possibly arced or deeply felt. Key emotional bonds etched are in throwaway montages, even on its own terms. Little feels earned are authentic. On the plus side, Sonic 3 has more narrative focus and urgency than Sonic 2, and there are some genuinely funny moments. A parody of telenovels, a killer green lantern cake, and the punchy pomposity of Elba's warrior and theater gets some laughs. The MVP of the first two films, Carrey dials down the physical comedy in both his roles, amping up punning to hit and miss effect for all the actors' cunning and the film's visual busyness. Few image pops are lodged in the memory, perhaps what's needed in an author's vision. The campaign for ballot at Sonic the Hedgehog 4 starts here. Sonic the Hedgehog 3. You have to give it up to the Sonic Hedgehog film team. They made something out of what little they had to work with regarding the first two installments. As who can blame them? They were based on the regular Sega Genesis game, which only had the basic concept of Hedgehog go fast. Defeat Dude, who made reboots during Sonic the Hedgehog 2's post-credit scene. They teased they were jumping ahead a few mainline games and adapting the Dreamcast or GameCube if you prefer the Battle Spot Sonic Adventure. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 review. 2 times Jim Carrey in his third movie. You cannot let your pain change who you are, James Morrison Tom says to Sonic the Hedgehog early on in Sonic the Hedgehog 3. Because what else would this adaptation of the classic Sega video game series be about other than trauma, going super fast, collecting rings, beating Dr. Eggman? Nope. This movie is going to be about how pain shapes you, and in case it will not clear to the audience the first time it was delivered, the line is repeated later, as are multiples one about making the right choice. I could not help but feel I had made all the wrong ones that lead me to reviewing Sonic the Hedgehog 3. Thankfully, this is not the type of truly terrible video game adaptation that has been the norm for so many years, from the bizarre nonsense of 1993 Super Mario Bros. To the inept laziness of 2024 Borderlands, but that's also not to say Sonic the Hedgehog 3 is actually good either. This third movie ends up somewhere in the middle, making it less than essential viewing for anyone over the age of 10 who didn't grow up with the Genesis or a Dreamcast in the house. We are a Nintendo family, it will please kids and Sega divorce well enough, but it's likely to leave other spot wishing the movie would move so fast as its blue hero does so they can do literally anything else. What is Sonic the Hedgehog 3 about? Sonic the Hedgehog 3 begins on Parison Island in Tokyo Bay, Japan, where a mysterious hedgehog breaks out and wreaks havoc in the way that only a hedgehog played by the dude that starred as John Wick and Neo can. Shadow, voiced by Keanu Reeves, is leaving a path of destruction through Tokyo, and Sonic the Hedgehog, voiced by Ben Schwartz, Tails the Fox, voiced by Colleen, and Knuckle the Echidna, voiced by Idris Elba, are called in to help. But even together, they are no match for Shadow, who has plenty of power and plenty of pain from a death in his past. Surprisingly, the evil Dr. Robotnik might be the only one who can help Sonic defeat his new enemy, but can he be trusted? With even more action sequence than its predecessors, Sonic the Hedgehog 3 feels like it's aiming for bigger things, sending the Blue Boar and his friends both around the world and beyond it. From Green Hill, Montana to Tokyo and London and even into space, the fate of the Earth lies in the weird animated hands. The series seems to follow the model of Fast and Furious franchise, getting more epic with each new installment and turning enemies into allies. As Knuckle and even Dr. Robotnik are brought into the fold, beyond the emphasis on speed, both franchises are also all about family, especially as Dr. Robotnik finally gets one of his own with the introduction of his grandfather. Gerald Robotnik, who is also played by Carrey, is also evil, maybe even more so than his grandson. The actor playing Dr. Robotnik continues to carry the series. Carrey remains the best part of this franchise with his wild faces and manic line delivery. Schwartz might voice the eponymous speedster, but Carrey is the real star. Other than money, I cannot quite figure out why those films exist, but I cannot be too mad at anything that gives Carrey a chance to be this silly in movies made for kids. Especially when he gets to play two characters in this third film and mug twice as much. Yet for all the silliness Carrey brings, Sonic the Hedgehog 3 gets a bit dark at times. Shadow is fueled by a desire to avenge the death of a young friend, and it feels a bit off when paired with Carrey's antics as well as the one-liner from Schwartz and the goof humor from Elba's Knuckle. Plot and character motivation have never really been this series' strength, but so much and so little happened in Sonic the Hedgehog 2. And the story is certainly not the draw here. There are emeralds and keys and a dance sequence because why not? Where is James Morrison, and even more importantly, where is Natasha Rothwell? But unfortunately, with the double carry, the triple to space and everything else, there's a less room for the more human, heartfelt part of the story that were present in early movies, which means less Marston. Tom and Maddie have gotten less screen time with each installment, which means that the inevitable Sonic the Hedgehog 4, which is teased in the requisite mid-credit sequence with the character I had to Google, will just have the adoptive hedgehog present waving from the side of the road while Sonic races by, relegated to an Easter egg. Even in Sonic the Hedgehog 3, we only got cameos from Adam Pili and Natasha Rothwell, who were both highlights of the earlier movies and bring a delightfully different comic energy that either Kathy or Marston. Sonic the Hedgehog 3, a delightful change up. I did not expect much from Sonic the Hedgehog 3. The first movie was a nice little diversion from COVID, but the sequel was quite irritating. And with the same director and writer back for another go round, I figured we were in for another round of more of the same. Fortunately for all of us, I was wrong. The sequel successfully reigns in the pop culture reference and Jim Carrey's weakened just enough while also giving us a serious villain for the first time with Keanu Reeves' shadow, and the result is that Sonic the Hedgehog 3 works better for audience for all ages than its predecessors, which were more secretly aimed at children. Sonic the Hedgehog 3, the dream of the 90s, is live in Sonic the Hedgehog 3 with Jim Carrey giving not one but two gleefully drank performances that harken to his rubber-faced comedic greatness of 3 decades ago. Do you miss the slapstick antics of Dumb and Dumber? Here you get romantic and robotic. Carrey reprises his malevolent mastermind role from the previous two Sonic movies while also playing Gerald Robotnik, Dr. Ever Robotik's equally evil grandfather. Both are verbose and elaborately misstituted, and the moment these long-lost relatives find each other features a fourth wall break that surpasses anything that occurred in his beast Mufasa the Lion King. In theory, we are here for Sonic voiced once again with fast-paced swaggers and sauce by Ben Schwartz, but he keeps getting upstaged by his co-star in his zippy third installment from Dr. Jazz Fuller. Beside Carrey, there's a Keanu Reeves providing his signature quiet intensity to the role of Shadow. Imagine John Wick as a superpowered diabolical space hedgehog and you will get an idea of the seriousness with which Keanu approaches the assignment. Whoa. All of this is to say that Sonic the Hedgehog 3 is way better than it was right to be as a video game adaptation, as a threequel, as a family-friendly movie coming out on the cusp of Christmas. I'm not a fan of the saga video game, as in I have never played it before in my entire life, but that's not a requirement to have a good time here. Sonic 3 takes a little while to get going and it's a super corny off the top, and the script from returning writer Pat Chesey and Josh Miller and Josh Whittington features way too many adolescent insults and wage in pop culture reference. But for a lot of people that will be a feature and not a bug, it's just who Sonic is. Still, once Carrey's frantic performance kick into gear, he gets to take his movie to an incredibly strange place, ensuring that it will probably work for the adults in the audience as well as the little kids who drag them there. At the film start, the red striped Shadow breaks out of prison island where he's been held for the past 50 years, seeking revenge. Sonic, Knuckle, and integrally Goofy address Ilba on the Peggy Tales have been enjoying a quiet life in small-town Green Hills, Montana with Tom and his wife, Maddie. Aside from Carrey's characters, the human beings are less necessary than ever this time. But the furry space creatures must dash into action to stop this formidable foe, and the former rivals realize the only way to do that is to work together. This entails going after the McFinnis of McFins, which the Robotnik also are seeking to fuel their giganto weapon of doom. It will all extremely silly until unexpectedly actual stakes emerge. The visual effects are impressively seamless for the most part in this live-action animation hybrid. Cinematographer Brandon Trost gives everything from forest chases to dance numbers a colorful sheen befitting the lively material. He also recently shot Mariel Seller's Night Beach House That Far Range, and composer Tom Hulkenberg, better known as Junkie XL, returned with a score that's knowingly melodramatic to punctuate all this adventure. Make sure you stay all the way through the credit for a couple of teasers for what's to come. Based on the Gaspan sequel from several people at a recent press screening, it could be out of this world. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 review. Jim Carrey supplies love and energy for Hedgehog threequel. A third Sonic film rolls off the production line with relentless inevitability and no little excitement among its core early teen fan base. The Marvel Cinematic Universe could take a lesson or two in how to keep the audience on side. The kerfuffle over Sonic's widely designed teeth seems a long time ago, and if Jim Carrey is really only in it for the money, he certainly gives his double role here some major value. And while no one could deny the cash grab fan service underpinning to the entire project, well, it's actually a not unenjoyable experience even if you are someone on whom the intricacies of early game narrative are lost. So this Sonic Rebirth takes the time hallowed third installment approach by foregrounding a dark version of Sonic, in fact near identical Hedgehog shadow distinguished from our hero by his black and red coloring. At the start of proceedings, Shadow escaped from a containment unit where he is being held for various convoluted reasons, and Sonic, along with his agenda and Fox sidekick, is called in to deal with him. Pretty soon, for further convoluted reasons, they briefly find themselves fighting alongside Ivo and Robotnik before, and I don't think this is a major spoiler. An eating Robotnik Grand Prix is an abandoned military base, then it starts getting complicated. Having a rich fuse of politeness, character arc, and dramatic incident to draw on from more than 3 decades of game means that this film is frankly groaning at the seams with switchback story moments, seemingly random flashbacks, and bizarre sideways leap, but it will all held together just about by a kind of delirious energy that creates its own momentum. The human elements are a bit hit and miss. The big name voices from Keanu Reeves and Idris Elba as Shadow and Knuckle respectively are not knocking anyone's socks off, and James Marsden and Tika Sumpter as Sonic adopted family are a chemistry-free zone, looking like they met for the first time second before the camera start rolling. Carrey thought is very good value, getting off a couple of lines that might actually make grounds up left and generally putting himself about to decent effect. Without him, the film could have been a lot worse. Sonic the Hedgehog 3, gotta go see it again. Ever since the Sonic Hedgehog 2 post-credit scene, I was going feral with excitement for the third film. I tempered my expectation, of course, because the first two made it clear that they are trying to be one retelling of the games. So I went in expecting a few nods to Sonic Adventure 2, but no short remake of it. This attitude was indeed the right one, as from start to finish I was enamored with the story it told, its larger than life characters, and even how it's handled some of the more sober moments of the Sonic the Hedgehog's mythos. Keanu Reeves as Shadow the Hedgehog is an inspired choice that carried this film for me. I adore the character of Shadows. He is one of my favorites, and as much as I loved Keanu, he was not going to be safe from my criticism if he bagged this up. Lo and behold, he crashed it. While it felt like a few lines fell flat here and there, it was evidently clear he had done his homework. The love and care that went into Shadow's character for the film was astounding, from emotional scene where he reflects on his tragic past to the sheer rage emanating from him as he battled gun soldier in the present. Sonic is also handled well as he adapts to his new role as a leader of Team Sonic. His character mirrors Shadow in the sense he was met with tragedy but found a family out of it, whereas his Shadow never did. So the clash in their ideologies really shines throughout the film. The rest of the cast does a fantastic job too, with another special shout out to Jim Carrey, who plays not one but two robotic, as he says in the trailer, double your villain, double your fun. And that's by no means an exaggeration. Gerald Robotic is as wiki and unhinged as Ivo, and at first I didn't vibe with it, but you quickly see there's something deeper and darker than Ivo has ever been executed on his own. Maria Robotic is also introduced, and while she is used surprisingly, I can only praise Alela Brownie's portrayal of the character. Maria's love for Shadow and importance in his story is not undermined by any means, and I am more than happy with the way it was handled. Something that really surprised me with this film was the action. The battles were on another level, and I'd say this is possibly the closest we have been to a live-action Dragon Ball Z film. It was high-speed, choreographed beautifully, and demonstrated the sheer power of these characters perfectly. I was really impressed. As for the rest of the film, especially the writing, overall story, and soundtrack, I honestly could not complain. So far, the film have done a good job of accommodating those who are not as familiar with the Sonic world, whilst rewarding those who are expert with little nods here and there to the Blue Blood's long history. The references were one band, but they will not alienate those who have not played the games, and there are certain story beats that made me very excited for what's to come in future films. Something I really want to highlight through is it feels like they finally struck a perfect balance between the Sonic character and human characters, giving the humans actual role to play that didn't feel omniscious or intrusive. Anyone who watched Sonic the Hedgehog 2 will no doubt remember the infamous Rachel's wedding subplot, and thankfully there's none of that in this film. The focus is exactly where it should be. Humor is obviously subjective, and while I had a few good laughs, there were a few jokes that did not land for me. But that's not a big deal. Finally, the soundtrack slaps. That's all I have to say about that. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 was amazing. It really is the best film of the trilogy by far. Yet I am still confident the next film could be even better if they keep this momentum up. It's hard to believe that we started from a shoddy, horrific design for a live-action Sonic the Hedgehog and somehow ended up here. It's honestly surreal. It's a must-see for any Sonic fan, and cannot wait to see what other fans like myself make of it. And don't forget to stick around for the post-credit scene. Sonic Hedgehog is generating widely momentum, a big part of Shadow's history. How did the character of Shadow, one who has been butchered and misunderstood for years, find his way onto the front cover of one of 2024 biggest release? It was lovely to visit Sonic Generation and see some of the changes made to its level and dialogue. After all, it's one of my favorite Sonic games, but Shadow Generation was what I was there for, and my god, it didn't disappoint. Every level was a banger, arguably some of the best we have seen from a modern Sonic title so far, and the addition of Shadow's Chaos and Doom powers did well to distinguish his playstyle from Sonic's. Space Colony Arc, Rail Cannon, Sunset, Highlights, all fantastic through. It was only when I got to Chaos Island that I realized something was missing. Chaos Island is an area in Sonic Frontier, a game Shadow had no part in. Sunset Height is also a bit of a bad addition, since Sonic Forces is set after Sonic Generations, both great levels, but not ones I had have expected to appear in the lineup. It made me realize the game had omitted one of the biggest part of Shadow's history. Stages from his spin-off Shadow the Hedgehog 2005 was not forgotten about completely. After all, Black Tom make his return as the villain. Does the Sonic team consider them to be bad levels, or did Shadow the Hedgehog underperform that badly they thought no one would notice? Who knows, but personally I think they missed a trick not including at least one of them. You could kind of arc Shadow the Hedgehog first mission. West Polish makes a turn as when Black Doom is warping the stages. There are Skypers present, but it feels like more of an extensive to Radical Highway than a different stage entirely, and it's never named dropped. While I would not consider Shadow the Hedgehog to have peak level design, there are quite a few that I had at least considered to be a good on a replay and fit the overall theme of Shadow traveling through his past. Galactic Cannon, Cryptic Castle, Circus Pass, even Lava Shelter are decent level from the game that could have made a comeback. I am not saying Chaos Island is a bad level and needs placement from it, but his inclusion feels better compared to the rest of the selection. It feels safe to assume the Sonic Forces and Sonic Frontier level were chosen because they are simply games that came out after Sonic Generations. So in a way they had to be included, but even so there's an argument to be made that should have been bonus level in Sonic part of the game rather than shoved into Shadows. We knows perhaps the success of Sonic X Shadow Generation will push Sega into giving Shadow his own game separated from the Blue Blur. Maybe then we'll get to revisit some of the location from Shadow the Hedgehog, perhaps through a remake. Sonic the Hedgehog 3. Whatever some Paramount Picture paid to coax Jim Carrey out of supposed retirement, it was worth every penny because the third Sonic the Hedgehog movie is not nearly as much of nattering chaos of a family film as the two. The rubber-limbed funny man has too quite upfront about his financial motive for playing Dr. Robotnik, the megalomaniacal mad scientist with the X-rated paint brush mustache, the stock peel of deadly electronics, and the hammy grudge against speedy space mammals. But just because this is a paycheck gig for Carrey doesn't mean he phones it in. Quite to the contrary, the man behind the mask streak his recurring role as the capering, bloating nemesis for Sonic the Hedgehog as lessons to mug like he has not since the heyday of the Genesis. Every time the camera finds Carrey in the Sonic movies, he is doing some tireless sketch, dancing with dorky aplomb, snarching his face into an expressive no other human has ever thought to make, tossing off grin chain, insert asides to nobody. In Sonic the Hedgehog 3, Carrey has finally found a scene partner who can match his freak. It's Jim Carrey. One hook of its latest sequel is that it cast the actor in a dual role, allowing him to play both a returning Robotnik and his distant, estranged relative. Watching the comedy legend in these movies already felt like witnesses a one-man show crammed into the margins of an expensive all-ages comedy, which is more true than not when half the other characters on screen are digitally generated. But there are scratches in Sonic 3 where it really is just Carrey up there acting out both sides of a lunatic family reunion, and as it turns out, two of him are better than one. Up until now, Carrey's hardly takes on the Eggman was not just the highlight but also the saving grace of this video game adaptation. The first Sonic the Hedgehog was ferociously popular. Why you have to wonder, did diehards warm to a movie that plucked their favorite Bluebird out of a 16 big kingdom of speed and color in favor of a drab buddy comedy with James Marsden. Sonic the Hedgehog 2 was a minor improvement, mostly by virtue of featuring favorite scene of Sega's resident Space Demon Plenty in the passenger seat of an appealing automobile, but it still leaned heavily on hacky pop culture references and filed subplot for the wholesome human characters. Thankfully, third time is the charm for the franchise, which finally hits its stride with a more fleet adventure for Team Sonic. Beside the bug-eyed romantic, the people in these movies don't hold much interest. Part 3 further minimized the screen time of the Hawk's adoptive parents, Tony, Storm, and Maddie, even as the cast list expands to include cameo-length part of Kristen Ritter, Lonely Islander, and Bob for Mad Men, with favored destination weddings and heart-to-hearts about Tom Carey's aspirations on the Doctor. The script by Pat Chasey, Josh Miller, and Josh Wettington can keep the focus trained on our colorful alien mimicry. Plucky wisecracking hedgehog Sonic, brightly adolescent flying foxtails, and irony immunes Agenda Knuckle, played by Adi Silva, whose straight-faced bruiser routine owns a clear depth of vocal and temperament influence to Derek's the Destroyer. The plot revolves around the introduction of fan favorite Shadow, who is like an angsty mirror image of Sonic, a brooding anti-hero hedgehog. It feels a little silly tapping those words who escapes from years of containment, electricity in his eyes, and revenge against humanity on his brain. Voiced in his usual gruff Zen Toto by Keanu Reeves, the character has a tortured backstory. Returning director Jeff Fowler lays it out through soppy flashback that supply Shadow with a formative, motivating, even eventually vacuum loss, if that seems like an overly serious traction of a Sonic the Hedgehog movie to take. Since someone did that spiky-haired, finger-wagging mascot have to deliver a monologue about grief and revenge, trust that a little melodrama is preferable to the trend-chasing, flossing jokes that mark his big screen debut. Speaking of which, this third movie inches further away from the unsolicited hop redux of the original and closer to the geeky adventure plotting of a Saturday morning cartoon, a much better fit for the character, and not just because Sonic and friends have raced across the landscape before seeing the little guy really run, as in a pleasingly animated early chase down the streets up the skyscraper of Tokyo is a reminder that kinetic eye candy is what defines the best Sonic games. Part 3 also has more conceptual imagination that its predecessors. It light rift on Mooncracker and Mission Impossible. Kiju movies and Anime, the dialogue is a less heartening mix of quipes, life lessons, and breathy declaration of conflicts like this ends now. In Sonic the Hedgehog 3, Carrey has finally found a scene partner who can match his freak. It's Jim Carrey. At its current rate of unlikely improvement, the Sonic series should turn out a Toy Story 2 grade masterpiece in maybe 5 years. For now, it's nice to report that these movies are finding their footing as kid-courting blockbuster that will not totally insult kids' intelligence or leave their parents yearning for the fattest exit possible. If there's a common ground to unite the demographic, it's probably a shared appreciation for the film's comic ringer, who is as much as cartoon as our wide-eyed and per internet demand dentally appealing hero. The star's one-man buddy comedy is what you could call a chase of successful sequel arithmetic. Double the carry, double the fun. Sonic the Hedgehog 3. Keanu Reeves delivered the shadow we have always wanted in an incredibly epic sequel with just one flaw. It's safe to say that in this age of ever-growing franchises, Paramount's Sonic the Hedgehog series is one of the strongest and most beloved. Considering how the 2020 original is best known for redoing the titular character's design after online outcry, its clear director Jeff Fowler knows exactly what fans of the Blue Speedster want and is happy to give it to them. And so comes Sonic the Hedgehog 3, closing out the years with perhaps one of 2024's most anticipated arrivals. In some ways, the Sonic the Hedgehog movies are tricky to break into if you are not a fan of the games. The Fuller and writers Pat Cossey, Josh Miller, and John Rettigan keep the reference easy to follow. I still get the impression they are winking at those in the know. At the same time, it's a testament to playful Warren Atsphere Fuller has created. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 still managed to be welcoming to outsiders like me. Shadow is the MVP of Sonic the Hedgehog 3. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 picks up sometime after the events of his 2022 predecessors, which saw the apparent demise of Dr. Robotnik and the arrival of Knuckle the Echidna. Idris Silva still heroic in the role. Sonic has settled into his found family with Tom and Maddie basking in the peace that comes after saving the day from a mad scientist. Of course, the peace doesn't last long before Sonic, Knuckle, and Tails are soon called up by Guardians units of Nation to deal with a new threat. Said threat is the character teased at the end of Sonic the Hedgehog 2, Shadow, an incredibly powerful hedgehog with black and red coloring instead of blue. Shadow's been kept in containment for years after a mysterious incident at the lab he was housed in, but with the help of a somewhat familiar adversary, he is gotten out and he is looking for revenge. Fans of the games will know the truth of Shadow's backstory from the get-go, but I will not get into too much detail here for anyone who doesn't know their rings from their cause emeralds. Suffice to say, Shadow is suffering from a broken heart, a far cry from his fellow anthropomorphic hedgehog. In many ways, he is Sonic Mirror, and that only makes their conflict more compelling, particularly later on when a spoiler-worthy plot point arises. Reeves' casting as Shadow was heavily rumored before it was announced, to the point where it was amused he'd be perfect well ahead of anyone actually hearing his rendition. Much like how Knuckles stole the show in Sonic 2, Shadow is the standout of the third movie. Fowler effectively introduced him and his backstory through engaging stage action sequence and heart-tugging flashback. In many ways, he is Sonic Mirror, and that only makes that conflict more compelling, particularly later on when a spoiler-worthy plot point arises. Reeves does a brilliant job conveying Shadow's heart and steel, adding to his formidable presence. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 has so many exciting new characters. On top of the threat Shadow possesses, there's also the return of Carrey's eccentric Robotnik, who naturally is not as dead as Sonic 2 might have suggested. In fact, there are two Robotnik now, as Ivo is reunited with his long-lost grandfather Clarence, also played by Carrey. The beloved actor is largely retired these days. He hardly misses a step in bringing the wacky villain to life, throwing himself into the dual roles with gusto and plenty of his signature physicality. Despite all that, this is still a Sonic movie, even if the blue blur is at times feel like an afterthought in his own story. This time around, he is grappling with the concepts of being part of a team alongside Tails and Knuckle. Schwartz's vocal performance is enigmatic and amusing as ever, but the character's arc drops in and out of the story, giving it a disjointed feeling. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 reels it back in by the end, offering a satisfying conclusion that shows the lead character has learned a thing or two from his latest adventure. It is true there are two post-credit scenes featuring thrilling cameos. Not unlike the two previous movies, it seems all but certain that Sonic has a number of big-screen adventures ahead of him, and I have full confidence that his fans will be happy to take that journey with him. This is a franchise that has treated its supporters with respect while opening its arms to newcomers. Because of that, the weaker elements of the film feel unimportant in the wake of the genuinely entertaining time that will no doubt thrill audience for all ages. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 released in theater Friday, December 20. It is 109 minutes long and rated PG for action, some wellness, root humor, thematic element, and mild language. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 ending explain Shadow and Sonic's fight, major death, and sequel setup. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 surprisingly emotional ending highlight the arc of the film's villain in a compelling way. While the film remains focused on the titular Blue and his friends, the latest entry in the cinematic Sonic series is keenly focused on the emotional arc of characters like Shadow the Hedgehog and Dr. Ivo Robotnik. While the film never tries to hide the fact that the two are comedic villainous act of selfish reasons, Sonic the Hedgehog 3's cast of characters are given more depth and evolution than one would expect. This is even true to the film's other main villain, Gerald Robotnik. Despite having a surface-level basic villain plan, Gerald's emotional motivation play into the film's overarching theme about grief, love, and growth. It's a very effective way to play with the film's emotional arc and helps give the story a sense of natural finality, even while the ending leaves the door open for more Sonic the Hedgehog sequel and expansion of the franchise. Do Shadow and Robotnik die in Sonic the Hedgehog 3's ending? The ending of Sonic the Hedgehog 3 is a respectably meaningful one, with Shadow and Dr. Ivo Robotnik seemingly sacrificing their lives to save the world. For much of the film, Shadow and Robotnik follow the goals of Gerald Robotnik to enact revenge on Gunn for their previous action 50 years ago. This leads to the launching of the Eclipse, scanning a space station capable of unleashing a laser blast that could wipe out all life on Earth. Both Shadow and Robotnik ultimately decide to protect the world, even if it means they cannot escape the space station before it explodes. While Shadow will likely return in future entries of the franchise, it seems like a natural endpoint for Robotnik. While the post-credit scene teases Shadow's survival, there is no indication that Robotnik could have escaped the explosion that consumes the situation. In fact, Robotnik's final scene sees him stream a message to Earth where he apologizes to Agent Stone and calls him a friend. This gives the scene a sense of finality and underscores the theme of the film about the bonds people form, all while giving the goofy villain a surprisingly endearing, heroic moment to go out on. While Shadow will likely return in future entries of the franchise, this seems like a natural endpoint for Robotnik. Gerald's Robotnik plan and death in Sonic the Hedgehog 3 explain. Gerald Robotnik is our grandfather and the chief scientist who was researching Shadow when he first arrived on Earth half a century before the events of the film. While the scope of Gerald's intention all the time were left unclear, his rage over the death of his granddaughter Maria drove him to spend 50 years plotting his revenge. After giving Gunn the design of the Eclipse cannon, Gerald was able to escape there, confident his mission is to wipe out humanity as revenge for Maria's death. With the Eclipse cannon prepared to wipe out Earth as well as himself. Gerald's rage at the worst reflect the central theme of the film about grief, while Sonic is able to overcome his plan and Shadow eventually follows suit. Gerald is too consumes with anger and loss over the death of Maria. This leads him to commit atrocious act, even actively trying to murder his other grandchild. This makes his sudden death after being flung into the chaos energy generated by Shadow far less tragic than it could have been otherwise. Gerald's plan is malicious and world-ending, but stem from a genuine emotional term, giving the character more depth. Why Dr. Robotnik turned on Geralt in Sonic 3's ending? Dr. Ivo Robotnik has been the overreaching villain of the Sonic the Hedgehog films, and that carries on to a certain amount of Sonic the Hedgehog 3. Despite briefly working with Sonic, Ivo is quick to side with Geralt when he realizes their family connection. The film leans hard into Ivo as an isolated and tragic character. Despite his goofy exterior and over-the-top villainous impulse, Ivo is shown to be a lonely man who grew up without friend or family. Even Sonic admits pity for him at one point, wondering what Ivo could have been like if he had connections. Ivo's decisions to turn on Carol in Sonic the Hedgehog 3's ending stems from a mix of those two aspects of the character. While he is content to take over the world with the space laser, he balks at the idea of actually wiping out humanity. Geralt, inside his grandson, seeing his only true family died with Maria, Ivo betrays Geralt out of anger over his grandfather's treatment of him. But the moment also highlights an unexpected element of nobility to the character that turns the tide of the climax. What really happened to Maria and how she died? The death of Maria before the events of Sonic the Hedgehog 3 serves as the impetus for Geralt and Shadow Rake. Laying the seeds for the film's central conflicts, Maria is introduced in the film and established through Shadow's many flashbacks, revealing the bond the pair formed while he was under observation and experimentation from gun. However, after Geralt warned the pair the gun extended to take Shadow away, their attempts to escape were thwarted by gun soldiers. An errant shows of a contained of chaos energy, and Maria was killed in the resulting explosion. Maria's death is the key dramatic beat in Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and is the reason that both Geralt and Shadow went revenge on the world at large. It's also largely similar to her fate in the original games as depicted in Sonic Adventure 2. In both versions of the story, a gun soldier fares after her while she is trying to help Shadow escape captivity. However, Sonic the Hedgehog 3 adds explosion of chaos energy where she was herself shot by a gun soldier in the video game. How Sonic the Hedgehog 3's ending and post-credits set up a sequel. The ending of Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and its two post-credit scenes teach the direction of the series' future. The film ends the Sonic, Tails and Knuckles successful in their effort to save the world. However, in the first post-credit scene, it's revealed someone has been constructing a horde of metal Sonic which could pose a serious danger to the world. Metal Sonic is one of the most consistent and dangerous foes in the Sonic universe, setting the stage for the beloved villain to be a big deal in any prospective cinematic follows-up. Any sequel would also likely contain more Hedgehog, while the second credit scene reveals Shadow survived the conclusion of the film and could get his own spin-off. The Metal Sonic attack also serves as the film introduction. Amy Rose, introduced in Sonic CD, Amy Rose is one of the franchise's more important supporting characters. In the game, she is a well-meaning young hedgehog with a massive crush on Sonic. Amy seems to have been given more agency and combat skills in her cinematic incarnation, and she could be the key to establishing the rest of the Hedgehog in this universe. The real meaning of Sonic the Hedgehog 3. At its core, Sonic the Hedgehog 3 is about overcoming grief and focusing on the love in Once life, Sonic is revealed to still mourn his adopted mother Longclaw, but has found comfort in her memory. This resonates with Shadow, who is forced to reflect on the impact Maria had on him instead of his rage at having lost her. Geralt is the worst case scenario for grief, someone so consumed by the loss of a grandchild that he is unable to genuinely love his other one. Even Robotic reflects his arc, openly grieving his lack of connections to others. Our big heroic moment comes with Geralt calls him out for having no one he cares about on Earth, and Robotic sadly realizes that he does value stones. This realization propels Robotic to save the world and finally become a hero. Sonic almost gives into grief when Tom is injured by Shadow, but he remembers the love Tom shared with him and relents, saving the world in the process. Sonic the Hedgehog is a surprisingly emotional story about overcoming grief, and it gives the video game movie more depth. Sonic the Hedgehog, released in 2024, ending an Easter eggs explained by Tractor as he breaks down Sonic Force production progress. Director Jeff Fuller delivered everything fans hoped for in Sonic the Hedgehog 3, and he took all of it very seriously. While talking with Screen Rant for the movie's digital release, the filmmaker behind all three installments of the hit video game adaptation broke down his approach to faithfully adapting the source material, namely the epic final fight between Shadow and Sonic, as well as why the movies have not directly adapted a certain sequence for the games. Through having made his directorial debut on the first movie, Fuller has actually been a major part of the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise, going back to his time as an animator making on the CGI movie production team of the 2005 Shadow the Hedgehog spin-off game. This led to his recreating numerous iconic shots in Sonic the Hedgehog 3, namely Shadow wielding a gun while onboarding a motorcycle. With the character being one of the biggest introductions to the franchise yet, Fuller took the casting of Shadow very seriously, with Keanu Reeves playing the iconic anti-hero in the threequel, combined with an emotional story for the character as well as for Jim Carrey in the double role of Arrow Romantic and his grandfather Garland. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 not only became the best reviewed installment in the franchise, but also the best reviewed video game movie of all time on Rotten Tomatoes. In hour of the movie's digital release, Screen Rant interviewed Jeff Fuller to discuss Sonic the Hedgehog 3, the movie's groundbreaking success, creating the emotional and fitting ending for Carrey's Romantic. While the movies had only slightly adapted an iconic sequence from the games, the post-credit introduction of Amy and Metal Sonic and an update on the development of Sonic the Hedgehog 4. Having critics on board for Sonic the Hedgehog 3 is all the more meaningful for Fuller. Screen Rant says that I must admit, going back to when I was a kid, I am a huge fan of this franchise, and the movies and the TV show have done it so much justice. So kudos to you and the team on that. This movie has set so many records not only at the box office but especially with the reviews. I'd love to hear what it's been like for you to see such a strong reaction to this film. Jeff Fuller, I have been incredible. Obviously, we make these movies for the fans and for family audience and people all around the world. That is our priority, to give them a great experience. The short of multi-generation fans like the parents that grow up with the character can share it with their kids, and hopefully the kids then can become fans. But then to have the correct side of things is great. Honestly, we work really hard on these films. We take the storytelling very seriously to be nourished in such a positive light and great. Really very proud of anyone who contributed to the film. Fuller recognized city escape has only been filtered with in the movie. Now you can talk about wanting to please the fan. You have mentioned before how the fans would hunt you down if you left out Live and Learn. And I was thrilled by its inclusion, but I will say I have been crying out since the first movie for Escape from the City. And I saw it was in the credit, but I did not actually catch it in the movie. Have you had any thought about properly doing the sequence in one of these movies? Yeah, it's so funny because the imaginary we have kind of filtered with is a little bit obviously in the first movie when Sonic is being chased through San Francisco, but it's still obviously robotic chasing him. It's not a giant gun truck, and then of course Sonic jumps out of the helicopter in this movie. So we have kind of filtered with it, but we have never just wholesale committed to it. And then of course we did the snowboard in Sonic 2 with the little piece of debris that he surfs around on, so all the elements are there just in separate contexts. But anyway, no, it obviously is such an iconic sequence, so I don't fault you for asking it. Agent Stone and Robotics final scene is a wonderful way to celebrate their relationship. Now in looking at the story, because obviously there are a lot of spoilers to talk about, first and foremost Ivo Robotics' fate really brought me to tears both times, and I saw it in the theaters. I'd love to hear your take on it because when I talked to Pat and Josh right as the movie was coming out, they said he is definitely dead unless, and obviously the big challenge with 3 was coming up with a story that intrigued him to come back. So I'd love to hear what's your thought on robotic fat in this one. Yeah, I mean honestly what a wonderful way to celebrate romantic and Stone's relationship. It just clicked because initially it was all about bringing Jim back to play true characters, and that was the pitch. I was like the first 2 films we have always explored family but from Stone's perspective, and what a great opportunity it would be to do that from robotic side of things. And what does that do to him? How does he change once he has family in his life? That was such an interesting question to ask, and it was something that I know Jim lodged on to and just gave him some neutrality. It's the last thing he would ever want to do is come back and just rehash the same performance from other films. So to get to now have Evo as his sort of doting grandson to Carol's was just such a fun sort of concept. But then to turn out that he has had a family all along right in front of him, it might not be blood family, but Stone is family nonetheless. And the love is there, so it's just great. It just lent itself to such great story material, and it's just wonderful to hear that landed for you because for all the action and bombastic nature of our third act, that it become kind of so simple and so emotional at the end, I think is something we are all really proud of. Updates for Sonic the Hedgehog 4 will come in due time. So now we have obviously heard that Sonic the Hedgehog 4 is already in the works. Are you cooking up ideas for how to woo Jin back, or are you looking up thinking that you are gonna leave that be for now? I am enjoying a few weeks of respite for all the craziness. December was obviously a blur with the promotion and the release, and then once all the dust settle, it will be time to figure out next steps and start to have those conversations. But yeah, it's so exciting to see the enthusiasm, the anticipation all be there for what's next, because it's really challenging to keep these movies feeling fresh and have the stories feel fresh and keep the momentum. So that's the goal above everything. One of the things I'm really excited about seeing in the next one is proper arrival of Amy after getting her in the credits for this one. Obviously, with Shadow's introduction, we didn't get a voice, and we didn't get a voice with Amy for this one either. So I know you have got a few weeks respite before getting back to work on 4, but have you already thought about who you want to play her? Or are you waiting to see what Pat and Josh come up with in the script to watch the actor? I love to just watch the fan conversation and just see where things go. Obviously, casting is such a huge part of any of these characters, but it does kind of come from the needs of the story and of the script. So I think I want to make sure that whatever direction is goes, that it is servicing the character needs for whatever story is being told. Well, you have done a fantastic job with the casting so far, so I'm sure you are going to do a great job with casting Amy for the next one. Now, also in the same sequence, we see the Metal Sonic in the games. Those are obviously created by Ivo, but is there already a plan of who actually created these, or is that something you are saving for going into work on the fourth one? I mean, usually the way these post-credit teaser work in, we are so jamming on finishing the film. But at the same time, you don't want to just throw character in there and not know what you are going to do with them. So there certainly, as we were wandering down on Sonic 3 and as we were preparing the post-credit teaser, we absolutely have a lot of really great creative discussions and got excited by some ideas, because you don't want to patch yourselves into a corner and put a character in there and then not know what you are going to do with it. But it's all very preliminary and much more work needed to come in order to really get that process going. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 ending explained. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 has arrival in theater, and as promised, the film has multiple post-credit scenes to dive into and a dramatic ending that sets up the franchise future. Paramount's picture began adapting Sega iconic platform consort in 2020 with the release of the first Sonic the Hedgehog film. The film's reimagining Sonic living on Earth with the human family. A sequel film and spin-off TV series introduced further Sega characters to the screen, including Knuckles and Tails, and the third film will bring Shadow the Hedgehog into the fold. A fourth Sonic the Hedgehog film was recently confirmed to be in development, and the ending of the Sonic Hedgehog 3 sets things up for an interesting future. Directed by Jeff Fuller, release date is December 20, 2024. The plot of the Sonic the Hedgehog 3 revolves around Shadow the Hedgehog awakening from status where he is being kept by the secretive gun organization for 50 years. Shadow seeks vengeance on Gun for the death of his best friend Maria, who also happened to be the granddaughter of Dr. Gerald Robotnik. Gerald and Shadow plans to steal two master keys from Gun, which will give them access to Gerald's Eclipse cannon, a devastating weapon he designed. Gerald recruits his garrison Ivo and Gerald to assist with their evil plan, but after they successfully steal both keys and launch the Eclipse cannon into space, Geralt reveals his true intention. He plans to use the cannon to annihilate Earth and everyone on it, believing humans are not worthy of saving after Maria's death. After Shadow fatally wounds Tom, Sonic goes against his team's wishes and uses the Master Emerald to transition into the supersonic form and go after Shadow. However, Shadow can absorb the energy of the cause emeralds to become Super Shadow, leading to a climatic space battle between them. When Sonic gains the upper hand on the Shadow, he cannot bring himself to kill the other hedgehog, realizing he has also been so consumed by rage he is lost himself. Sonic and Shadow connect over the losses they have experienced, and Shadow agrees to help Sonic stop the Robotniks. Working together, the pair manage to alter the trajectory of the Eclipse cannon away from Earth before Shadow and Evo maneuver the cannon into space where it explodes. The film ends with Sonic, Tails and Knuckles reuniting with Maddie and Tom, who survived his injuries, and the trio engaged in one last race to determine who is the fastest. Who died in Sonic the Hedgehog 3? Unfortunately, after making his debut in Sonic the Hedgehog 3, Shadow's time in the franchise seemingly ends. The Hedgehog sacrificed himself to help push the malfunctioning Eclipse cannon into space, where it explodes and takes him with it. Shadow was consumed by rage to the point he wanted to end the Earth and everyone it during the film, but his final actions to save Earth, even at the expense of his own life, redeem him as a hero. All that being said, a post-credit sequence may hint at a future for Shadow, more on that later. Ivo and Gerald Robotnik spent much of Sonic the Hedgehog 3's runtime in a glorious reunion after 50 years apart. However, Ivo turns on his grandfather after learning of his true plans to destroy Earth. Sonic, Knuckles, Tails and Shadow arrive to put a stop to Gerald, who ends up being disintegrated in the chaos energy of the Eclipse cannon. Ivo and Shadow then agrees to do what's right for the people of Earth and keep the Eclipse cannon from exploding just long enough for Shadow to push it to a safe distance away in space. Robotnik goes out in supernova of glory, but not before transmitting a goodbye message to Earth and a tribute to his friend and henchman Agent Stone. Sonic the Hedgehog 3's post-credit scene explained. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 has multiple post-credit scenes, the first of which has major implications for the fourth Sonic the Hedgehog film after outrunning Knuckles and Tails in the race. Sonic finds himself in a New York State Park where he is quickly surrounded by an army of metal hedgehogs who look like him. This is no doubt a setup for Metal Sonic in the future. In the games, Metal Sonic is an evil reboot version of Sonic created by Dr. Robotnik to take down the Blue Hedgehog. He can mimic if not exceed all of Sonic's ability and is one of his most dangerous foes. Thankfully, Sonic is not left to fight these metal robots alone, as a savior in a hooded robe also arrives in the post-credit scene. Under the hood in Amy Rose, a pink hedgehog who is known as one of Sonic's greatest allies and love interest in the video game franchise. Amy wields her iconic weapon, the Pico Pico hammer, in the scene, and the two prepare to deal with the metal army around them. This scene makes it clear that Amy Rose and Metal Sonic will be major players in Sonic the Hedgehog 4. Sitting through the full credit will reward audience with one more credit scene. The short snippet reveals a close-up of a set of familiar shoes landing on the ground before a pair of hands lean down to pick up two golden bracelets. The scene all but confirmed that Shadow survived the explosion of the Eclipse cannon, as the Hedgehog was seen removing his golden bracelet before the final act. It seems he has now returned to Earth to retrieve them after miraculously surviving his ordeal. Whether Shadow's next move is to reunite with Sonic Team or to under Earth on his own, it seems likely he will be roped into the action in the fourth Sonic film, or perhaps his adventure will be explored in a spin-off series like Knuckles. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 is the movie that have been waiting eagerly for the third installment to the blockbuster franchise since it was announced. And now the massive movie is here, and with a ton of new addition to the cast as well as some wild and deep Sonic lore, following the blue blur as he faces down Shadow, Keanu Reeves and two Dr. Robotniks.